As Kevin Durant is rehabbing from injury, he now has another hurdle to climb. KD is among the 4 Brooklyn Nets players to test positive for coronavirus. He told The Athletic on Tuesday, quote, "Everyone be careful, take care of yourself and quarantine," adding that he's feeling fine and not showing any symptoms. "We're going to get through this." The Nets did not identify any players and said Tuesday that of the 4 players, only one is actually exhibiting symptoms. All 4 are isolated and are undergoing medical care from team physicians. The Lakers, who played the Nets in their final game, are set to undergo coronavirus testing, as first reported by the LA Times and confirmed here by ESPN. All right, Max, we're going there. Do you honestly believe at this point there will be an NBA season?
No, I'm starting to doubt whether it'll even happen. And the reason is this. The congressional doctor who said that between 70 and 150 million Americans are going to wind up at some point with coronavirus, that, like, if we take that number to be true in a country of 320 million, 1 in 4, 1 in 3, close to 1 in 2 might wind up getting the coronavirus. That's a ton of people, up to half the population. The issue is not all getting it at the same time, so we don't overtax our healthcare system, especially for their elderly and people with underlying immune problems, because it can be deadly, obviously, 10 times more than the flu. So the question, so that leads to social distancing. In the absence of a vaccine or treatment at the moment, we just stay away from each other, and that will slow the spread of the virus. Understand, it doesn't mean that the virus is going to go away. It means it slows the spread so we don't all get it at once, because that makes it more dangerous. But think it through. What that means is if many of us wind up getting it, but not all at once, that means we're prolonging the duration of the virus. It's going to be around longer. So people who think that we're going to be self-quarantined and stuff like that, or sheltering in place for 4 weeks or 8 weeks, it seems to me that there's a good chance that that's wishful thinking, and that if we are successful in handling this, it's going to go on up till the summer, maybe through the summer. People will be sheltering in place for longer than anticipated. And that makes me think, Stephen A., once the NBA starts looking at the NFL season, not the preseason, but the regular season, given all the time off, there's a good chance the season winds up canceled.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. My feelings are very, very similar. But I will say to you that I'm holding out hope. Maybe it's because of my love for the game of basketball. Maybe it's because of my love for sports overall. Maybe it's because of my belief in this society. Once we hunker down and come together, we can overcome anything. That's usually my mentality, pretty much always, to be quite honest with you. And I understand it's wishful thinking more than anything else. When the news came down about Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets yesterday, it hurt my heart, because now the Lakers are getting tested today. And you know, listen, every life matters. Every individual matters. But when people are in the public eye, situations become more pronounced. And so just imagine, and certainly none of us are wishing it, and we're praying that it doesn't happen. We hope that the cases are limited ultimately to the point that it's completely eradicated, that we fight and beat this virus that has, basically invaded our lives. But when the Lakers get tested today, God forbid if LeBron James comes back and, he tests positive, and Anthony Davis and other players or whatever, then you're going to look at the NBA and they're going to probably say, you know what? Our projections about June now are going out the window. And so when you look at it from that perspective, there's a lot to be worried about. There's a lot to be concerned about. Obviously, the health of all of us takes precedent, but we're all craving sports as well. We wish that the games were back. We wish that people didn't have to stay in their homes. We wish that people were smart enough to know how to practice social distancing more frequently and prioritize it. I remember I was watching CNN yesterday, and Sanjay Gupta, people were talking about how he was walking around so frustrated because this is such a serious matter, yet you see footage on television all the time, people not practicing social distancing, folks still shaking hands with one another in each other's presence. Max Kellerman, I've had to drive on several occasions, and what do I find? I'm seeing people on the basketball court, in the parks, playing sports with one another, no regard whatsoever to the social distancing recommendations that have been disseminating throughout the airwaves and beyond, nationally and internationally. And so when you see that kind of stuff going on and you hear about more and more and more cases, it's going to elevate the level of concern and worry. And ultimately, it's going to force the leagues to cancel. I'm still hopeful that that won't happen because all hands are on deck. But I'm very, very worried, to say the least.
I'm with you, Stephen A. You hope for the best, you prepare for the worst. And because the United States' response early on was among the worst, if not the worst in the world among developing or developed nations, so-called first world nations, we're in a bad spot. But of course we're going to overcome. Of course, in the end, we'll beat it. Eventually, with the right leadership, of course we'll beat it. But the issue is, do we do that in time to have an NBA playoffs? Remember, like just a couple days ago, if you think just psychologically how we're processing this, even as a sports community, so to speak, think of where we were last week with it. Remember when I brought up the Harvard professor who said in a couple of weeks no one will even be in a college classroom? That's when the Ivies canceled their tournament. But the NCAA tournament was still going on, and I and you and we were all hopeful. Maybe they could do it in crowdless arenas. And we're seeing now it's every day much more serious. Soon, shelter-in-place laws. They're already enacted in many places. So where we were a couple days ago, you were hopeful we get to play out the rest of the regular season. I think it's safe to say now we're just hoping, can we get an NBA playoffs this year? And what I'm saying is, I hope we can, as you do, Stephen A. I think it's less likely every day.
We all hope so, but obviously we're not there yet. And to reiterate, 4 Nets players tested positive, one of them being Kevin Durant. The Lakers were their last opponent. They will now undergo testing. In the NBA, to deal with this shutdown, has raised their credit line to $1.2 billion. That, according to our Adrian Wojnarowski, up $550 million.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.